episode 14 of the Randy Wilson Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Wilson. Super excited to be with you today as we are celebrating Mental Health Awareness Week. October 6th through October 12th is recognized in America as Mental Health Awareness Week. Quite frankly, I'm not sure if it's recognized outside of America, but we're recognizing it today on the Randy Wilson Podcast. Again, this is episode 14. This podcast will be brought to you on all podcast channels, including YouTube, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Apple, iTunes, and anywhere that a podcast can be found. Want to definitely show appreciation to the Urban League, Richmond YP Young Professionals for allowing me this past week to speak to them on mental health awareness and particularly self-care for the young professional. And since I provided that material for them, I felt like it would be equally beneficial to spread some of the information that we discussed over to you as my podcast audience. So, I have been working in the field of mental health for nearly 20 years. I've been in the role of an executive director at the Hub Center now for the past 10 years. That's also known as the Hope, Unity, and Freedom Center. And we have locations throughout central and tidewater regions of Virginia, serving about 400 and some consumers that receive mental health treatment 6 days a week. I'm very passionate about the people that we serve. I'm very passionate about the industry of mental health, but I will tell you that it's definitely a lot of changes occurring, and we'll get into that. Prior to working at the Hub Center, I worked as a business development specialist for the central region of the National Counseling Group, and in that role, I was responsible for working in the community at building relationships and contracts and agreements on how we can better foster mental health services and partnering with the court service unit or social services or the community service board, anybody. Just basically, how can we prevent people from going to the hospital and prevent people from being incarcerated or prevent people from being homeless? So, again, I'm on the proactive side of mental health. My goal is to keep people stable within their homes and the community. There's a lot of changes, as I shared with you before, though, that's occurring right now in mental health with, I guess, the most recent news is the termination letters that providers are now receiving from insurance companies. It just doesn't seem to be any clear understanding right now to why some other things are happening. But I strongly encourage people out there to get connected with some of these associations. The Virginia Association of Community-Based Providers, there's the VNPP. There's several nonprofit organizations throughout Virginia right now that are definitely working very hard to champion on behalf of private providers. And it's my advice that you become affiliated with one of those organizations because you really can't stand alone as a provider and fight all these battles by yourself, particularly small providers. So again, we have to use the same approaches as we do in treatment. We have to come together as a community of providers right now and working together cohesively, being willing to share information, share knowledge, but ultimately working toward the better good of improving people's lives that suffer with mental illness. And again, with this being Mental Health Awareness Week, October 6th through October 12th, again, I'm just trying to make efforts with this podcast to bring emphasis and importance to that topic. I look forward to future conversations on the topic. I'm not sure if you all have been following me or not, but I did, I think it was episode 7 maybe, with Nikki Shaw, licensed professional counselor here in Richmond, Virginia. We did a podcast on mental health, and that definitely gained some good attention. And so, again, I'm hopeful that this one will as well. I want to talk about labels. And something I would like you to remember is that labels can often conceal more than they reveal. In recognition of Mental Health Awareness Week, I would like us all to champion together collectively in presenting a united front for the communities we serve and ensuring that people who suffer with a mental illness, they're people just like you and I. People with mental illness have the ability to improve in the areas of their mental health, just like you and I do. People with mental illness can still be very active, involved, supportive citizens, and even functional in their careers and families, just like you and I. People with mental illness have opinions, views, and votes that count, just like you and I. I've witnessed the mental health community change elections when elected officials made a committed effort toward ensuring that their constituents were at the table and at the voting polls equally. Now, obviously, that required a community effort to make a commitment toward ensuring that no vote was left behind. Think about that for your future, though. There's a lot of people suffering with mental illness that we have no idea that suffer with mental illness, and they could be in our families, or they could be right next to you at work. So just remember, labels conceal more than they reveal. We want to give value to all people who suffer with mental illness, because they're people just like we are. And I don't know what I would be doing right now. I've been very blessed in the past 20 years of my career to have worked with people with severe mental illness. I'm not celebrating the fact that they have a mental illness like it's a great thing, but what I'm saying is that if it wasn't for people with mental illness, there's a lot of us who would not be employed or would have not found our passion. These are very special people. They're amazing people. I learn more from them than they may learn from me at times. And so, in recognition of Mental Health Awareness Week, I want to thank every person who suffers with mental illness for allowing others to participate with them in helping them improve their mental health. And I want to show appreciation and thanks to their commitment and willingness to allow themselves to improve by getting up every single day and not falling dormant to what their mental illness is, but having a committed effort made every day in their heart to get up and go about their life. Do not allow the mental health to defeat you. So we have a lot of work to do in changing the stigma. And in speaking on labels, I can think of a lot of people who hold very important titles, but again, just because they hold important titles don't mean that they always carry out the expectation of what their title is. I know presidents, and I'm not saying any names, they could be presidents of your organization or company, but that doesn't mean that their behavior is always presidential. I know a lot of people who are parents, or let's just say I know a lot of people who have children, but it doesn't mean that they are parenting effectively or that they're actually good parents. I know a lot of people who are ministers and pastors, spiritual leaders in the community, who are not always ministering from the Bible or the Quran or whatever their choice of worship is. They're ministering from their own personal perspectives. There are a lot of media outlets out there who are reporting popular news and popular information, but not always reporting accurately. So, just because I use all those as examples, because there are people also there with severe mental health issues, but that doesn't mean that these are people who are inadequate or incompetent always in being able to do what's necessary in being successful. If you have a mental illness, challenge, or disability, you can still improve it. We all have the ability to change and create change within ourselves and communities. We need to treat the panhandlers with respect. A lot of them are clients of mental health as well. Well, excuse me, I don't want to use the word client. I want to use the word participant today. They're participants of mental health services. Some of them are homeless and some of them are not. But there are people that deserve respect. They're using their life skills for the purpose of survival and recreation, just like you and I do every day. We want to eat and we want to drink sometimes as well. It's life. But remember, labels conceal more than they reveal. Labels are often identified or perceived as a bad thing. However, I would like everyone to consider that they don't have to be, because labels often provide the sign for the direction that needs to be taken. Labels can be looked at positively. They're not always bad things. If a map didn't have the appropriate label, how would you know that you were following the accurate directions to reach your projected destination? We choose to believe the map or our navigation system. Now, if children didn't have labels, and I'm not saying that children or people can't be labeled inaccurate, because that happens also, but I'm just trying to put emphasis on the importance right now of a label. If children didn't have labels, then counselors and school psychologists wouldn't have the ability to put the right interventions for treatment in place. In mental health particularly, I don't like how the term client is used. And I used it earlier here, and it's common to use the word client because we are all clients of someone. But I think when working with a person in mental health, we need to be more careful in using terms that complement their participation, like the term participant. I think simple things like this can increase and improve the person's willingness to agree in letting us as providers deal with the often delicate, vulnerable areas of their psyche. Mental health clients are often given a very negative, derogatory type of label. They're often looked at as crazy versus psychotic or misfits in our society, and all kinds of negative things can be stated about the people we serve. I know at my organization we don't use the word client, we use the word member, because we want the participants of our service to feel they have some ownership and belonging in the involvement of their treatment. Everyone is a client of someone's. We all have people we have to report to. We all have doctors. So I'm saying this to you in an effort to bring some awareness to the words we choose to use when identifying people. I would like us to go forward being more mindful in identifying how we can better embrace people that are different than you and I. Mental health is a label, and the first thing I want us to think about is how often do people, not just young professionals, but people actually self-evaluate their mental health. A person who struggles in being self-aware may struggle in evaluating their mental health. So to have a conversation with someone is even a bigger challenge when it pertains to your mental health. It's commendable that you all have chosen to be a participant of Mental Health Awareness Week. And I think it's tremendous that you have chose to stay with me this long in the conversation. To me, your participation in this conversation shows your acknowledgement in understanding that it's important to be engaged in discussion related to mental health. There are people all over the country who use the word empower a lot. And I think the term is always beneficial. It's very beneficial when it comes to discussing mental health because we as individuals have to give purpose and guidance and direction to what we allow to enter into our psyche. Many of us are closed off when it comes to opening up and expressing thoughts and feelings, attitudes that often are constructive about ourselves. It's not always easy for us to see ourselves. And it's very important that we are aware of how people perceive us. We live in a I don't care society, but it's not cool to not care. It's not cool to not care at all. To care requires an investment, and to invest requires time. Time is valuable. So it's important that we are giving ourselves the necessary time we deserve. TLC, the tending, love, and care. So as we move into self-care, a lot of people don't care about how people perceive them. And as much as I can see some value and good in people not getting overconsumed in the thoughts and feelings or attitudes that people on the outside of ourselves have of us, I think it's often critically important that a person does care about how others see them. Because others contribute to how the masses see you. For some people in their careers, it is important it is someone else who supervises you or pays you or monitors how you monitor yourself. So the opinions of others are important. Many people struggle in even evaluating their physical health. So the chance of their mental health being unstable when their physical, nutritional, spiritual, or emotional health is out of balance is significant. Mental health is not just something he, she, they, or them have. We all have mental health. And at times in our life, our mental health is better or worse pending many different factors. Are you having any financial stress at this moment in your life, or can you relate and empathize with someone who is? Do you experience road rage in moments of commuting to and from work? What do you look like on Sunday when your favorite football team is losing their third or fourth consecutive game? I know a lot of you look a mess. Basically, in our life, in a snapshot, our mental health can be viewed as little unstable. The line between sanity and insanity is very thin evidence in the people who have severe mental illness. Because the people who suffer today with mental illness at a severe level where yesterday's school teachers, doctors, attorneys, and parents, everyone is not born with a mental illness. Mental illness can impact you at any time in your life as a result of how you experience and participate in life. We all know someone with a mental illness, whether it's diagnosed or not. So I want to do a little exercise with you as the audience. I want you to look in your phone. If you are a social media person, then I want you to look at your social media apps. If you a talking person, you just enjoy talking on the phone, I want you to look at your call log. If you are a texter or you are a DM, inbox, instant messenger type of person, you look at that, okay? But I want you to put emphasis on one of those three areas: text, call log, or social media. Now, whom you engage with and surround yourself with plays a contributing factor to what tomorrow will determine. You are not where you are by luck. Your process has been paved as a result of the roads you've passed, the tunnels you've dug, and the bridges you've built. Not to mention the success or lack of that you received in your upbringing. But you're not here by accident, and you're not listening to this conversation by accident because you've chosen to be here at this point. Your being here in this conversation is a reality. So as I share that, I would like you to look in your phones right now at your call log, text message, or social media and ask yourself, if the previous 7 people you've had conversation with are positively contributing to your professional development, are the people you choose to associate with, the previous 7 people, are they good for your psyche? Are these people that you engage with in a position that collectively together can help you become a better overall person by the examples that they make in their life every day? Now, as young professionals and professionals, we are in a stage of our professional development. And the goal for us is to develop professionally. So as you continue to evolve in your industry, career, and develop as a professional, and evaluating the personal and professional relationships and contacts and persons you are involved with, these are the people that you surround yourself with. And if they're positively contributing to your personal and professional development, then great. Are the people good for you personally? Are they good for your mental health? Or are they liabilities in your life? Think about it. I stress this because I want us to own the responsibility of being responsible for our mental health and our professional success. Ultimately, I want you to think about, if you believe you are taking care of yourself, are you really taking care of yourself? Your job is not responsible for taking care of your mental health or even your professional development. Your job provides you a paycheck, but you have to reevaluate what you're doing 5 to 9 after that 9 to 5 that makes you a contributor to improving your life. You want to make sure that you are living an all-around good life as an individual, because if you are, that will roll over into your professional endeavors, and your professional endeavors will be either successful or not. Constantly, I have managers and supervisors approach me all the time and discussing how can we improve morale. And as much as I understand how important that is, and I am responsible for employing mental health professionals, that's the key. People that are not just mental health professionals, but people who have the education and experience, but people who are required to have mental toughness, they need to be mentally fit. They have to be mentally healthy. The bottom line that I'm trying to get to understand is that it's not my job to make all the decisions. Excuse me, let me change that. It's not my job to be able to answer all of your questions, but I have to take some involvement in ensuring that we are making all of the decisions. Of course, it would be great if I had all the answers to your questions, but together, collectively, we all need to be mentally fit, mentally tough, and mentally healthy. So when people are looking at you, and if you're in a similar position as I am, and they have expectations on behalf of how you can contribute to improving morale, first off, you have to look at that individual and get them to identify within themselves. Why or why not are they so unhappy with themselves? And what are they doing to contribute to improving themselves as far as their own personal morale? In an effort to accomplish this, though, let's be reminded that in the word mental, the first three letters is men. And as men and women, we have personal ownership for being in control of our personal lives, which should contribute to the type of professional lives and success we have. We are in the game of life. In an effort to ensure that we are practicing healthy, let's look at our lives really serious for a moment. The great words of Jay-Z, Hov said, "You're not a businessman, you're a business man, woman, you're a business." Look at yourself for a moment in that way. You can hold whatever title at your job, but that title can't define you better than how you define yourself. I've had nights that I did not sleep. I've had nights that I slept at the office. I've had weekends that I slept in the office. And when I did those things, I did not have anyone that could, by example, really guide me or tell me why I should go home and get a good night's rest. I mean, an employer is typically not going to tell you that. They're just going to tell you what needs to get done. Now, you're fortunate if you have a supervisor or a mentor or someone who can kind of help guide you on behalf of ensuring that you're getting your job done, but also ensuring that you're doing it in a healthy way. If you have that in your life, kudos to you. But you can never expect that to come from an employer, because an employer pays you to do a job. An employer can look at you and say, well, the fact that you're having to sleep nights in here or weekends, maybe that's a failure of maybe that's a lack of your ability to be effective within a 8-hour day or a 40-hour week. Because everyone don't have the same skill set or strengths or abilities to get all the work done within the same time frame. So, to each his own. It's an employer's job to give you parameters, but it's not their job to completely manage you. So it doesn't minimize the need for you to have some self-management of self. So for some self-care work, remember, you are no good to your employer or your career if you're not treating yourself with tender love and care. I believe in hard work, but I share this with you today, and particularly the younger professional, that it's important to learn how to pick and choose your battles. If you have hit burnout or hit a wall or felt like you were at a dead end in your career, or just not seeing the light, then you have the ability to help others with that. You can have the ability to help others prevent that. It is important to know how to prioritize what has to be done today, but what can possibly be moved over until tomorrow or next week, vice versa. I'm not ever encouraging complacency, but I'm saying you can't really evaluate what is rational or practical when you're acting in or performing irrational. And I'm saying this to you so that you don't have to burn yourself out. You are an owner of your life. It's your life. Own it. Are you executively directing the path of your life and how you're managing and supervising yourself? As the chief financial officer of your life, are you being a good steward of your money? Are you saving it? Are you investing it? Are you taking intelligent risk? Are you wasting it? Much respect to the financial planners. So this is no slight at you. However, just as an individual person, without a professional title, you have to make the intelligent choice for how you invest your money. Spiritually, practice whatever you want. I'm not here to preach to you, that's for sure. But understand, your preacher or your worship leader is not more responsible for your spirit than you are. I'm not saying you don't need to have some additional resources to help contribute to keeping your spirit balanced, but you have to be the spiritual leader of your life. What are you doing to protect your spirit? What are you not doing that you need to do? You cannot delegate all your spiritual responsibilities to your church. You have to take control of your own spiritual life as well. Exercise. Yes, yep, you know it. I'm going to say you are your own personal trainer. And that doesn't mean that you don't need to visit Gold's Gym. That doesn't mean that you don't need to have someone as a trainer in your life. But you have to be responsible for ensuring that you attend. Nutritionist. Of course, I'm going to say it again. You are not your own You are your own nutritional leader, of course. That doesn't mean you might not need an assistant. I mean, think about it. How are you managing yourself well financially if you had to pay someone to be responsible for all these things in your life? Maintaining your nutrition. I got to have a nutritionist. I got to pay for my trainer. I got to buy all these books, and I got to, have a financial advisor. Like, remember, you own your life. And you have to manage the business of your life also. Remember, you are a business. Self-care is critical. I believe it's critically important, period, that we listen to what we hear as much as we listen to what we don't hear. Same things apply to what we see and what we don't see. Your self-care is your responsibility to live in a balanced and fulfilled life. You will not have good mental health if the areas I've just mentioned are not in balance or if they're out of balance. Self-care requires the discipline to do the hard and sometimes boring things that are good for us. Young professionals are often ambitious and full of energy. Young professionals, as well as all professionals, have to calibrate in finding the appropriate speed to approach personal and professional matters. What is self-care? Self-care is turning off the TV instead of watching another episode, or turning the TV on for some of you. Self-care is going to the gym, or taking some time off from the gym. Yes, you can abuse yourself in the gym as well. You can overdo it. You can watch too little TV, you can watch too much TV. You can have too much retail therapy, or sometimes you may need some retail therapy. Do something for yourself. Do something that makes you happy. Self-care could be declining that second drink at the office party. It also could be maybe having that one drink every now and then. Don't be so hard on yourself. Saying no to the thing that you don't want to do, even if someone is going to be angry at you. Or saying yes to the things that you should and deserve to do. Self-care is maintaining financial independence. Self-care is doing work that matters and being smart using effective judgment. Self-care is letting other people take care of themselves and you be responsible for yourself. Now, self-care can take many forms. I mean, you have to listen more to your heart and give your head a rest every now and then. But it's a balance. Listen to your heart, listen to your brain. I typically think that somewhere in the middle where your mouth is, the truth will come out. Be mindful and intentional with your self-image, even little things like hygiene. I mean, they're not little things. But good self-care is being very intentional with how you brush your teeth. I'm not trying to encourage anyone to go be OCD. I'm just saying make sure that you are doing the little things like brushing your teeth with care, doing the dishes, walking. When's the last time you sit down in the bathtub and washed your feet? Some of you right now are just like, okay, you haven't sat in the bathtub in a long time. You're constantly standing in the shower. Relax. Take a bath for change. Simplify your life. Spend time with people who uplift your soul. Do something different. Unplug your phone and take a rest from all technology for an hour a day. Instead, plug into your spirit, pray, meditate, write. Listen to the still, small voice within your head. Talk to your conscience. Move your body more, stretch and get plenty of rest. Laugh, play. Eat some vegetables and fruit. This is the Randy Wilson Podcast, episode 14. I hope that this message I brought to you on mental health and self-care has been informative and helpful. I'm extremely appreciative of you as a guest and part of my audience. I hope that we're building a strong bond as we continue to bring you really good informative content. Today I did something different in doing the podcast on my own and preparing just to talk to you directly. So feel free to inbox me, DM me, write back with any questions, comments, anything. Your feedback is very, very supportive. Stay tuned for the next episode of the Randy Wilson Podcast with my guest Tiffany Jana, who I'm sure is going to be a great podcast. So again, thank you for your participation, and I'll see you next week. Good night.